Every little girl grows up dreaming about her happy ever after, but most of us don't have fairy tale scriptwriters making sure we get it. That's where the Happy Ever After show comes in. If you have been waiting for a fairy godmother to wave her magic wand and release your frustrations, create the prosperity you want, and live a life you love, then listen closely. It's time to learn how to make your own wishes come true with your host, Cassie Parks.
Hello and welcome to this episode of the Happy Ever After show. I'm your host, Cassie Parks, and I am excited to talk to you today about this, continuing this series with Manifest 10,000, all about, the Manifest 10,000 book. Thank you so much for joining me. It's so great to spend a half hour with you. So really quick, just because I want to give you this update in case you are looking for it. So if you are also a fan, or maybe you're going to become a fan because you didn't know about this until what I'm about to say, I also have a podcast where I co-host with Jenny Gain, and it's called Manifest It Now. And some things just changed up. We're actually striking out on our own. I'm super excited. So while we loved being a part of the Law of Attraction Radio Network, there's some things that as Jenny and I grow as both being, having a New York publishing house publishing us, there's some things that we want to have more influence over and be able to track, and also we need numbers and things like that. So just for reasons of it was time to grow, we have taken our show off of that network, and you can just find it, Manifest It Now, on iTunes. So in case you missed any of the shows, I just want to let you know where we are. Just look up Manifest It Now or contact me if you can't find it, and I will get you the link. So just want to take care of that really quick so that you all knew, because I know that I have a lot of fans, thank you very much, who listen to both shows. And I want to make sure you don't miss a beat, because we're not missing a beat. We're jumping into even deeper topics, going over just talking about real in-depth stuff every day, law of attraction, how to live the life you want to live, our experiences, bringing in a couple of experts, when I feel like we want more, we want to teach you something. If I feel like someone can help you in addition to us, we're bringing them on the show. So I don't want you to miss that show if that's one of your favorites. So just look up Manifest It Now, and you can keep subscribing and keep listening. And thank you for listening. All right, let's jump in today. I know you're listening because you want to welcome more money into your life without struggle so that you can build your business quicker and easier. And today we're going to talk about why money doesn't manifest quickly and easily. And this is actually, there's going to be 2 shows on this, because there's a couple of things. And the thing about covering this, the reason I'm covering this is to bring awareness to when you do it. Because once you understand, and I explain things to you and tell you, you're going to be able to catch it easier. And when you can catch yourself doing some of these things, you're going to be able to shift your focus right back to manifesting and welcoming more money into your life. So I know you're a business owner, you want to welcome more money into your life, you're an entrepreneur. And being able to welcome abundance in your life is pretty important to your business success. I was writing something the other day and I said, money doesn't buy happiness, but it does pay the bills. And as an entrepreneur, it keeps your dream alive and growing, because often there's things we want to invest in, we want to get better, we want to better serve our people, right? And so as we're welcoming money in, we can give more to our people. We can give them a better venue. A couple weeks ago, I held Manifest 10K Live at the Four Seasons. Now, trust me, I could have found a much cheaper venue, a less expensive venue to hold that in. And, it wouldn't have had the same impact. I'm able to serve my people better because I'm able to welcome money into my life better and more of it, right? People changed in that event because of the event, and also because of the location, because they had to see things differently. They were opening their eyes to things they didn't know were possible. They had to decide who they were going to be. And the stories that came out of that are amazing. And when you really hold the space, I love, I love Maggie and her $20,000 story. And Maggie shared this post a couple months ago after she did her $10,000 photo shoot, which, by the way, if you don't know, whether you manifest $10,000 or more in by reading Manifest 10,000 or by doing the Manifest 10K course, you get an invitation to do a $10,000 photo shoot, which is super fun. And it's empowering in a really cool way. And it opens up for the next level. So, and it's a way for me to celebrate you and allow you to experience that. So, when Maggie was the first one who got to do that. Like, I've done my own, but Maggie got to do it. And it's really about you. Like, I might use a couple shots, cool shots for, to put in, some magazine articles and stuff. But it's really about you. Like, having those pictures is, it's so cool. Anyway, like, Maggie's are so cool. Like, you will never see most of them. And yet they're just like, they're so powerful and so much fun. So anyway, so Maggie had been at my place. We do it at the Four Seasons. It's super fun. And Maggie had been here and she had gotten to do that, and she'd got to experience, I called room service. She had lunch here, like all of that. And she got to experience that. And she wrote this post about, how she used to hate the posts about how people were making money, right? She it was funny because she's like, I probably wrote a blog post on this, but now I get it. Like, being in the environment, like, because I'm able to welcome money, I was able to create an environment that really quickly is able to help her move on to the next level. Now, not everybody's, it doesn't even have to be that your brand is about luxury or stepping up into money, right? It can be about the kind of retreat you can put on in the woods, right? Which often, if you want the best guides or you want different things, you invest in that. And so you get to give your people better when you're able to welcome more money into your life. Because when you're struggling, and I see this a lot, really people holding on, like pinching pennies and not able to give what they want and provide the experience that they want, it's harder to build your business that way. But when abundance flows through you, which is the mantra, like my overall mantra, if you've gotten your Manifest 10,000 book, it's written it's what I write. Abundance flows through you, right? Because when you realize that abundance flows through me, as I say it, you realize that welcoming money and flowing it back out is really an amazing way to impact the world, both with your clients and other things. And so becoming that coach who can be super generous, and like a couple of months ago, I had someone coming in and for the workshop, and her flight got canceled. It was, crazy. She had to go back home. She had to, search all night for a flight, things like that. But she was like, I'm coming, I'm going to be there, I'm going to be late. So, because I keep things a little bit smaller, I was able to, small and intimate, I was able to rearrange things for her and really give her the best. And also we didn't have to miss anything. She got everything. But what was even better than being able to do that and really say, it's okay, take a deep breath, you're going to be fine, is that without thinking, I just called up the guy that would go pick her up and be there waiting outside the airport in, a black car. So she didn't have to think about that. She didn't have to get off and think about that. And that's one of those things where, investing in that was super easy because I welcome money into my life, because I wasn't like, oh, I gotta pay this. It was like, nope, that's $100. Here you go. Right. And it's not something that I normally do. But it was something that was easy to be generous about because it was what was needed in the moment. And so being able to welcome abundance into your own life not only increases the success of your business and the level of success that you'll experience, it also increases like the feeling and the energy that your clients have, right? Like my client was able to just sit in the back of the car and relax because, I just sent her a text. I said, hey, this guy's going to be out there for you. He's tracking your flight. He knows when you're going to land. He should time it perfectly to be right out front when you step outside. He can right here and drop you off. No problem. So she was able to be more present here because she hadn't been frazzled. And so it's, I truly believe it's in service of your clients to have abundance flow through you. So that's why I teach this, right? And I know that you're, you're listening to this show because you want to welcome more money into your life without the struggle so that you can build your business quicker and easier. And I love that. Like, thank you for being here. You know, it's important to you and your clients, right? It's important because you have important work to do, and it's important. So, you know, I think about so often about how awesome my life is. I think often about how awesome my life is. And you know, last week I talked about being on the phone with my publisher, and for Double Your Business is going to come out in January. And then the next day I got to send off the contract for Choose Me, which is my first novella. You've heard me talk about it. It's a dream. If you haven't read it yet, just go to Amazon, put in Choose Me, Cassie Parks, and you'll find it. And, you know, like, that's a dream, and it's going to be in bookstores like shortly. And that was just such a dream a couple months ago. But when you learn to welcome abundance in your life and you learn to step into your future self, amazing things start flowing all the time. So I love talking to you about this. If you love this season of the podcast and you want to get, you know, Manifest 10,000, you know, even if you have the ebook, get the print copy. You know, even if you're like, well, I don't know, I don't do print copy books, whatever. I would appreciate if you love this podcast and you're getting a lot out of it. I just, you know, as a way of paying it forward, and you can just buy the book as a thank you. You know, I'm one of those people, sometimes I just like to do something from someone that I get value from, but like their programs don't fit or whatever. And if that's the case, I am more than happy to have you go to manifest10,000book.com and pre-order the book. All you do is click one of the links for Amazon or Books A Million, wherever, and they're going to ship you the book sometime before May 16th. But when you come back and you fill out the form with your receipt number and all that, I will mail you a book right now that's been personally signed by me. It's got, you know, abundance flows through you in it. I've set in a little intention and a prayer as I've packaged it up for you. So if you want a copy now, or even if you just, you know, want to be supportive and go buy the book at manifest10,000book.com, that's manifest140book.com, then go do that. And when you get the book, just, you can give it away. I love that because, you know, it makes it easy because it was complimentary. So what you can tell people is like, hey, I have, either when you get your extra copy, or now if you're like, I don't really need it, but you want to be supportive, when you get your copy in the mail, you know, you can offer it to someone and say, hey, I got this book for free. Do you want it? And that's a different energy than saying to someone, hey, I think you should read this book that's called Manifest 10,000, right? It's like, hey, I have this, like, it's a gift. Do you want it? And then they can say yes or no. And I love that. So go to manifest10,000book.com and get your copy, and then make sure to fill out the form so that I can send you your complimentary copy. All right, let's talk. I'm excited about this topic because, like I said in the beginning of the show, when you understand what happens and how these things work, what comes up, what keeps people from manifesting money quickly and easily, when you become aware of them, you can cut them off sooner and get your focus back on track. So, you know, here's what happens, and I talk about this in the book, you know, oftentimes people will start manifesting, they start finding the law of attraction when things aren't really good, and they start, you know, taking control and making choices about their thoughts and recognizing their beliefs, and things get better and they feel better, right? And maybe you've mastered the parking spot, right? You always get the perfect parking spot. You're like, awesome, I've got that nailed. I actually hear this from my clients, which is why I use this example. Because I get on the phone with people and they say, like, I got that, right? But now I want something bigger, you know? So now it's time, when it comes time to learn how to manifest the car to go in the parking space, then that takes it to another level. And often what happens is when people have mastered that parking spot and they're ready to go for the car, and I'm just metaphorically using those two. So whatever you want, it's $10,000. It's, you know, the life and the business you want, it's all of it, right? But when we're talking about manifesting the car instead of the parking spot, oftentimes people try and go back to where they started, and they start trying to fix things, and they start looking for things to fix in terms of, to try it. They're like, oh, something must mean it broken if I can't manifest a car, right? And that takes you off track right away, like right there. Trying to fix what you're doing wrong means you're focused on what isn't working versus focused on what is working. So right there is number one. It's probably the most common thing I see, right? Because it worked before. So of course you go back to that. You're like, well, I started fixing all these things. I started fixing limiting beliefs before, and I got happier and I learned how to manifest parking spots. So I must have to go back, right? But the way I've seen it work in my life and in the lives of my clients is really, that's the point where you get to step up into a bigger place. You get to step up into a bigger role. You get to, focus more on the experience. You get to focus on the bigger life, right? Versus just going back and trying to fix things. Because if you're trying to find something that you think is broken that you need to fix, guaranteed you will find something that's broken that you need to fix. And as long as you keep looking for those things, as long as you keep looking for those limiting beliefs, they'll keep coming up. So that's kind of the first thing that happens is really people go back to the beginning. And I want to say, stay where you are and keep moving forward. All right. So the next thing that happens is people try and force it, right? You decide you want this car, you start forcing it, you start really thinking about it. And by forcing it, I mean, you're trying to make it happen, right? You're like, oh, I need this car. Like, this is the car I want to manifest. It's $25,000. It's $50,000, whatever it is, right? I'm just using a number. If it's $25,000, okay. So I'm going to manifest that $25,000 by this. I'm going to get X number of clients by this number of day. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. This is going to happen. La, 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 right? And your head starts to spin. And that's really forcing it. Like, setting the intention and then deciding how it's going to happen is not leveraging the law of attraction. It's using brute force to get what you want. And that's probably worked at some point in the past. And I think for everybody that works to a certain point, or maybe it works forever. It wasn't super successful for me. Like, brute force and forcing things really was not successful in my life when it came to manifesting money or anything else, right? But I do think some people can be really successful by brute forcing it. Like, if you're willing to power through hard enough and you're smart enough in certain areas, you can absolutely force it. But if you're coming up with a plan, this is one of those things that lets you know you're trying to force it, you're controlling the how. You're trying to force it and create it, right? And that usually doesn't work. And I found it's definitely not the easiest way, right? So the next reason why people don't manifest money quickly and easily is that your brain starts to resist the change, right? When you've put together this certain list, you're like, okay, your brain can't come up with a plan because it's like the number's too big, right? Or whatever. Or you've said, okay, I'm not going to come up with a plan. So because your brain can't come up with a plan, your brain's job is to keep you safe. And so if there's no plan or your brain doesn't understand how it's going to happen, it's going to start resisting. And while, your brain is seeing it as not safe, while most people don't see like that money, they don't see that as unsafe and dangerous, like your brain probably doesn't. But when it doesn't know where it's going to come from or how you can make it, really tries to keep you in that box, right? Because your brain is trying to create the same reality. Your brain creates your current reality from your past memories. And when that happens, it wants things to be the same, right? And what I know is that a lot of manifesting programs don't take this part into account. They don't tell you this is going to happen. And it doesn't happen to everybody, but it happens to enough people. And I've heard enough times when they were like, I knew that, you told me my brain was going to start to resist. And when it did, I knew to keep going instead of stop because you told me. And so that's why I share it. Right? And so often you might experience brain detox when you start really focusing on money and you start believing and you start tapping into your abundance feelings, which are likely different than the feelings that you have on an everyday basis, right? So we're going to talk about your abundance feelings, talked a little bit about it. If you have the book, you know about it. When you start tapping into your abundance feelings and activating those more, it's literally changing the neuroreceptors and the, everything in your brain. It's it's like a puzzle system. Like certain neuroreceptors fit into, certain places, certain neuroreceptors have, things that fit in there. And when your feelings change, like all of a sudden there's nothing that fits in the neuroreceptor, and you have to detox those old feelings that you've been creating, whether they're sad, frustrated, angry, in order to create the new neuroreceptors for happy, peaceful, calm, whatever it is, right? And that detoxes, and there's a great call if you are in the Manifest10K course that talks about this. When your brain starts detoxing, you can feel overly emotional, right? Trust me, you can feel very much emotional. You can feel like out of sorts, like maybe you go from happy to sad, happy to sad. You can feel like you're like just everything is falling apart, which it is. Everything is breaking apart to be put back together in a different way, right? And so this is a place where a lot of people get off track, right? Because they feel, and they do it too early. They get off the train, right? Because it doesn't feel good. But I'm here to tell you, if you notice this, like keep going. That's a sign it is working. It's a sign that your brain is shifting. It's a sign that your brain is opening up, right? And, just following the system in this book and sticking to the system, one of the things that I'll tell you over and over is to put on your calendar to follow this program. And when you ahead of time do that and you just keep moving forward, you get through that brain detox, right? So we talked a little bit about, and the next one is limiting beliefs, and that's where people often move backwards, is because if they try and fix it, right? And then what happens is they're like, well, I must need to fix, like, it's not working, right? You get in your head, it's not working. So I must have a limiting belief, because a lot of times this is what we're taught. If something isn't working out, it must be because you have a limiting belief. Now, there might be a limiting belief there, right? But there might not, right? What I know is that when you go digging for limiting beliefs, you're always going to find them. And when your default is like, oh, it's not working, I must need to go find a limiting belief, you're going to keep finding those to fix, right? And you're actually, like, if you physically think, you're stepping backwards when you look for a limiting belief instead of stepping forwards. And I learned this very really in my life. Every time, I got into this pattern where it was like, okay, feels good to shift a limiting belief. So one of my limiting beliefs is that you have to work really hard. You've probably heard, like, it comes from watching my dad. And I don't think my dad was actually unhappy. He loved what he did. He loves who he was in his job. And it came pretty easy to him to do that. I just knew I couldn't repeat it, right? Because it was about me. Like, I think he was actually fine and love what he created and what he was living. I'm not sure, given the chance, he would change that. But as a kid, when I saw that, when he was in his home, he wasn't home all the time, he was working, he did all these things. In my mind, it was like, oh my gosh, I have to work so hard. And for me, I was like, I can't work that many hours. Like, I just can't do that my whole life, right? I've always been a person who had 4 jobs and like 4 to, like in high school, like that's always who I was, right? I would babysit, I would house sit, I don't know, I would tutor Spanish, seriously, like, and I would have my other job, right? And I'd have my job, right? I was always doing 4 or 5 things because I didn't mind working hard, but I knew I couldn't do it. I was like, I can't do this for 40 years, right? I didn't mind it. It was fun, actually, in my early, but I was like, I don't know how I can keep this up forever. So what I realized is that every time when I was hitting a block and moving forward in money or my business or welcoming, my default became to go find a limiting belief. And what I found is they were all pretty much similar. It was the same thing. I was just trying to change over and over again. When it changed for me is when I just decided I was going to have a new story. Like, I didn't need to fix that belief. I could choose a different belief. And I think that's true for most people, because if you are looking for a limiting belief, you'll find it. And if that's your default, is to step back and look for what's wrong with you and decide you need to fix something, you'll absolutely find it. But if what you can do is be like, okay, I see that belief, but I'm going to choose this belief and I'm going to start practicing it to me, it's way more powerful. And I've seen it with my clients. It's what changed a lot in my life, right? So the next thing people do is they work the list. And what I mean by work the list is that, so many of these things happen. And I'm going to talk about this on the next show about gathering evidence and seeing evidence. And that's one of the reasons why people aren't successful at manifesting money quickly. But when you don't see what you want manifesting as quickly as you want it, which is oftentimes just because you're not willing to see it, usually once you're willing to see it, you can see how fast it's happening. But when you're not seeing it, so often people go back to what I call is like working the list. They're trying to make it work, right? They're doing this whole, like, instead of just doing, if they're in Manifest 10K, instead of just doing what I say, they go bring in this whole other list that they've learned along the way from other people and other systems. And they just keep adding like to all this stuff that they think they need to do to make this work. And it often doesn't work because you're just doing more. And when you're working the list and you're adding to it and you're feeling guilty because you have 30 things on your money manifesting list, right? That you're not getting to every day. They feel forced. They feel like you have to, like you're not in the space to create. You're not in the space to attract what you want. You're just putting a lot of energy and working really hard and telling yourself like, I have to keep working hard because it's not working. Right. And then you're like, it's not working, so I got to work harder. So you add more stuff to the list and you just keep piling on. And that's when a lot of my clients find me. They have this huge list that they're doing. They're not seeing results. And the truth is they're not seeing results because they just keep adding things on. They keep telling themselves it's not working, finding more things to do. So we're going to talk about 5 more. That was 5 reasons, I believe. And I'm just going to make sure that I got them all. Yeah. So that's 5 reasons. And then there's 5 other reasons that I'm going to share with you on the next show. And again, the reason I'm sharing is that you can go, oh, you can notice when it happens in your life and you can shift your energy and attention back to what you want. Because what it comes down to is all of these things are putting energy and attention on what you don't want more of, right? And so when you become aware you're doing that, all you got to do is switch and put your energy and attention on what you do want. And it's super important to know these so that you can be aware and you can shift it, right? And that's what I want to share. And these are really the ones, these are true for me. And these are true from running Manifest 10K now for just about 3 years. Ooh, that's so exciting. It's coming up on its anniversary, but, formerly known as Money, Money, Money when it started 3 years ago, but running this course for 3 years and having, over 1,000 people go through it, I see the patterns that come. I see what happens. I see where people get off track. And this comes from all that. It comes from seeing that and being in the experience and having run the course for 2 years before I wrote the book. So these are the most common things that I see. And that's why I want to share them with you so that you can become aware of them so we can automatically shift our focus back, right? It's not even shift the things that you're doing. It's like, just stop doing them and put your focus back on what you want, which we will talk about how to do. If you have the book, lots of ways to do that. You can join Manifest 10K at manifest10k.com to get, the system of how to do that, day by day. It's really easy when the system comes to, when you have something to focus on every day, which is why the course is set up like that for the first 20 days. Because when these things happen, it doesn't go on too long because you have a new assignment to focus on. You have a new place to put your focus and attention. And that's why I highlight these things so that that's what's happened, and so making you aware. I'm excited to talk to you about the rest of the list so that you can become aware and shift that. And, if you've been with me a while, maybe you've been around since the money, money, money days. I got a message from someone the other day I think she was one of the originals who took the first time I ever offered that course. And, she asked if Money, Money, Money and Manifest 10K were the same. And I'm like, well, kind of, but no, not at all. Right. And I can't tell you what's different. I've evolved the course. Like the more I see more people go through it, the first one was based on my experience. Right. And as I see more and more, I add more and more about what's supportive to other people, what I've had to coach them through, and then remember like, oh yeah, I did go through that, right? So the course gets better. And now, of course, it's focused on the $10,000, which is super important. We've talked about that before. We'll talk about it again. It's a number that your mind can generally wrap around. It's a number that will change most people's lives. And it's, it gives us all one point to focus on, right? And so, she just messaged me and she says, well, I think I should jump back into it. I said, I would do that. If you're feeling like you've listened to this, you took that course 3 years ago, if you want a refresher, jump back in, manifest10k.com, because it has changed. It's better. It's more supportive. It has more, there's so much information there. And it's just such a great place to connect and grow. So, and exciting news coming out about, Manifest 10K Live, the next one, which is May 11th to the 13th. And so you want to be in that course so you get that information first. All right, I'm going to leave you with this mantra today. I see money everywhere. I see money everywhere. Have a fabulous rest of your day, and I'll talk to you next time.
Thanks for joining us on the Happy Ever After show, where you don't need a genie lamp to get your wishes granted. Now that you're inspired and ready to take action, get yourself on the path to your happy ever after by scheduling a complimentary strategy session at createmyhappyeverafter.com